Okay. All right. So the reason I was putting this together was for the past couple months, I have been pretty religiously planning my weeks on Sundays. I know Dickens and I have had a few calls because we've been holding each other a little bit accountable with making sure we're each doing that. Um, Not everyone likes to plan out their weeks, and I get that, but it does have some benefits for a lot of people, and living your life by design or by default is kind of the thing that sticks in my head as I do my planning. Is I want a little more control. And there's a lot of things that we all have going on in our lives. So making sure you're planning for the right stuff and prioritizing the right stuff is very helpful to move your mission forward, whatever that mission may be. So I just wanted to jump on here because again, everyone that's invited to this has made some kind of comment in the past on one of my planning posts. So first of all, thank you for the encouragement because it helps me want to stay on the planning train as well, and continue doing the planning week after week. And so, you're helping me just as much as I hope I'm going to be able to help you guys. Now, if you guys have already started planning, or you haven't started planning, sure, there's going to be things that are very different in what I do, and there's probably going to be a lot of similarities as well. So everyone has a different goal in mind when they're doing their planning, and different challenges that they have to navigate around. So that's all fine and well, but I just wanted to share kind of step by step what I do, and we can kind of share some examples of whatever you guys are doing as well, if it is something that you have found more success with, or anything like that. So before we jump in, how many of us on the call right now, how many are actually active in planning? All right, Matt. Well, hopefully this helps, Matt. So I'll definitely be interested. I'm going to run through my stuff. Oh, John plans every day as well. Thanks, John. Appreciate you jumping on. So I'll go through my process, like I said, and I'd like to kind of run through, and then I'd like to be able to talk with you guys about what you do, because again, my format is not perfect. I have adjusted it and changed it a little bit since I started doing this. And I constantly find other things to either track differently or add into my routine. So I usually start by getting out of my environment. I don't like to plan at my desk, at my house, with family around, things like that. I typically try to get out of my environment, which usually puts me over at Dunkin's. I'm not gonna lie, I stopped at Dunkin's first because figured I didn't want to do this in the middle of their lobby. They might not appreciate that, but I do run on Dunkin's. There's no lie about that. But what I usually do is I start with like a framework, and I'm gonna see if I can share from my other. There we go. All right. And all right. Are you guys looking at the notebook now in the spotlight? Okay.
Yep.
So this is typically how I start it, right? Those who know me know I can overcomplicate the hell out of things. I am rather analytical, very detailed, and this is a very pared down version of what I had been doing, partly because the other stuff I was working on was it was too chaotic to track, and it got a little crazy, and I wasn't following the same format week after week. So I did some research, talked with a few people that are also doing planning, and this is kind of the loose framework that I follow up with. So I document my start and end time, just to kind of see how long my planning is taking me, if it's taking me longer or less time. Because obviously my goal is I don't want to take 4 hours on my Sunday and do this, but I want to make sure I'm tracking what I need to track. So I hit these 5 bullet points primarily. I always start my planning with a win from the last week. try to start on a high note. And actually, some of the books I've read since then, I did just recently read Gap in the Gain, and a lot of that book is heavily focused on looking at the gains, the wins, and not focusing on the gaps. So starting on a win puts you on the right foot, to kind of wrap your head around, hey man, I've made it through the last week. I did achieve what I needed to achieve. I had a good success, and then you kind of jump into the rest of it. I also started adding in tracking of my metrics and my mileage in my weekly planning session. So I normally track this stuff on my phone, but I figure to have a more comprehensive planning session, I throw it on here as well. And all I end up doing is I'll take the information from my apps on my phone. So I have an app on my phone that tracks my my metrics, which are different things like, whether I got to bed by midnight, because that's one of the goals that I set for myself. I tend to not, get to sleep until, midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, which is not conducive to a great day the next day, but that's just, I'm a night owl. I put a lot of hours in at night. So I want to be able to track that, get that back in line, also tracking my calories and exercise and everything else that I'm doing. So I have an app on my phone, which I'll share with you guys, that tracks that. And then my mileage, I track my mileage, and I use Mile IQ for that. And at the end of the week, if I haven't been staying on top of the mileage, I do a lot of different things. I have a W-2, and my real estate stuff that I'm doing, and I try to track my mileage, whether it's general real estate business, prospecting or whatnot, or whether I'm servicing one of my current properties. For accounting purposes, I try to track all that stuff separately. And
when you say
sometimes
when you say W-2, you mean you got a job as well?
yes, sorry, I have a
right,
I have a job as well. I just kind of associate W-2 with the word job. But yes, I do have a full-time job as well. It's still in the same general vein of the industry. I work for a real estate investment trust, but that's a job. That's a salaried job that I just kind of I do what I got to do for someone else. But I do try to track all that stuff. And if you don't stay on top of your mileage, it tends to get away from you, because then you have to kind of go backwards in time and remember, well, was that trip work related? Was that a personal trip? And it's just, so I try to do it on a weekly basis to clean up the accounts. And then after I do that, I'll go right into a brain dump, just literally everything on my mind, things that I'm like, oh, I gotta call the dentist. I gotta make sure I get an oil change, and all that stuff that floats around in your head all week long. I just dump it all out on paper. And then from there, I kind of roll right into my prioritizing. So I'll look at that list and I'll try to prioritize the top 3 to 5 items. And I use that number 3 to 5 because I can typically, outside of my W-2, outside of my job, my full-time job, I do a lot of work after hours, after my, after I punch out kind of thing. So knowing that, hey, if I can prioritize 3 to 5 things, and I know at least, I can get one of those items done after work every day. That's kind of my goal. If I can get it done during the day, great. But that's not always the case, because I do, like I said, I do work full time. So I don't always have the ability to tackle these things during normal work hours. Then after I prioritize, I'll jump right into a look back on the week, reflect on how things went, pros and cons, whatever it is, whatever's on my mind. However, I want to just kind of digest the week that passed. And then at the very end of that, then I will kind of reflect on my annual goal. And I set my annual goal at the beginning of the year with some quarterly, milestones. And so I try to track a little bit to that. Again, it's more of like a journaling at that point. I kind of say, out of my goal of getting an additional $1,500 of free cash flow by the end of the year, how am I tracking? Am I on track? Am I looking to get there? Do I need to ramp it up or whatever it is? So I try to get all that onto paper. And then after that is kind of out, I go back through, and then I start taking out my my actual planner, my schedule. And from
Dan,
there, yep.
Just going back to priorities. So you only prioritizing your real estate investment stuff, or are you also doing your W-2 and family and fitness priorities as well?
Yeah, so I prioritize everything. So this is kind of like all of everything that I
Right.
brain dump is important things for my job, important things for my family, important things for my
Yeah.
real estate business. I just put it all out there because ultimately, if I were to do that in just the different veins, like, all right, I'm just going to dump out all of my real estate priorities, well, then the other focuses of my life don't get the attention that they need.
Yeah.
So I try to roll it all in here, which sometimes means I don't get, I don't get all the priorities in the right categories, right? So there definitely is room for improvement there. And it all depends on what your own goals are. But I'll be honest, I don't typically prioritize the exercise or anything like that. It's just something I try to put in the calendar. And if I can, I try to roll that into like a habit stacking, right? So I don't prioritize my exercise, for instance, but I try to roll it in with something else that I'm doing. Like I'm part of the group GoBundance, which actually Matt and Mel on the call are in that group with me. And there's a lot of opportunity on those in that group, that tribe of like-minded individuals, that you get time to interview and talk with like millionaires and people that are going after certain things, like micro tribes of like the super dads or real estate investors or something like that. And you get like an hour a week. You kind of jump on a Zoom call with them. And I try to habit stack a little bit there, where if I can, I'll jump on my elliptical while I'm listening in on that call, because it's better than me sitting just here staring at a camera and letting my mind wander. And I have 3 monitors in front of me at any given time. So sometimes if what they're saying isn't necessarily right down my alley, I might lean towards the other computer, and then I end up shifting focus a little bit. But if I can jump on the elliptical for a couple minutes while they're talking, then I don't even notice I'm exercising at that point. So that's where I try to make sure I stack in those other things. Same thing with my meditation. I meditate every day, weekday. I'm good about doing it during the week because I stack it with my morning routine. I'll go, I'll get my coffee, I'll pull off in a parking lot, and I'll spend 10 minutes just doing a guided meditation, and then I start my day after that. So that's kind of where that all goes. And I find it beneficial to stack it like that. But once I go through this whole process here, and I mean, I'll scan through a little bit here. I'll show you.
Can we make that small screen that's showing your notes bigger? Because I've tried and I don't see it, like an expansion thing.
Make where the notes are?
Yeah.
Like highlight it so that makes that the featured one.
Because I can't read it.
I tried to spotlight it. Can you not? It's not.
It's only taken up like 1/4 of my screen, and therefore I can't read your tiny writing on it.
I mean, if you're on a phone, adjust your view from gallery to highlighted.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at a computer screen, so I have more flexibility on my side. But yeah, that's, if you're on a phone, you can just swipe left or right, and you'll be able to get to the.
Yeah, I got it now.
So, all right. Is it better now?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I can read that now.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I can probably zoom in a little bit more too. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So this is like last week. This is what I did. So I started my planning at about 10:30, and I wrapped it up about 12. So for this, I went through my wins, right? So my biggest win of that week was I got an offer accepted on a 6-family, which is great.
We saw that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Good. I'm trying to share, and because everybody that's been on any of the calls, I'm on weekly calls and things like that, they know I've been pursuing it. So I'm like, I gotta share that I'm actually chipping away at this day by day. So and then I jump into some of the metrics that I measure. So my exercise, meditation, bed, my calories, all that stuff. So I have all of this on my app, right? So I have an app that I track all this. Like I said, it's called Habit Loop. Or I'm sorry, Loop Habit Tracker. It's a pretty good app, and it's kind of like if you're familiar with the Seinfeld method, where it's like you try to get a streak of success or whatever. And so I just kind of go through. I set my goal for the following week. So when I sat down, I said, all right, well, this next week coming up, I want to exercise at least 3 nights a week. The week before that I was wrapping up on Sunday, I only did 1 out of 3. I did my meditation, all that stuff. So I go through this. One of the guys that's not on the call, Nick Ollerud, I'm on a coaching call with him weekly as well. And I know he gamifies it. He turns this into basically score, right? So he tracks it by points. If I do this, I get a point. If I do that, I get 5 points. And at the end of the week, he gives himself a score of, he's basically doesn't target to get 100%, because then it means he didn't set his goals, far enough that he's doing the easy stuff. So he tends to like shoot for, 80, 85% of, or 80, 85 points at the end of the week. So I haven't gamified it yet because this is still working for me. But if you're motivated by that, then I 100% recommend you find other ways to hold yourself accountable. I typically do my meeting, and then I snap a picture of my planning, and I make sure I post that, because that's me sharing with my network that I'm still doing it. Like, you can hold me to this. I will keep planning this way, just to make sure that I personally do it. Because, even though nobody's calling me up and making sure that I'm doing my planning, I still feel like there's enough people in my network that benefit from knowing that it's still happening, that somebody can sustain the planning. And also I feel like I owe it. So it makes me feel like I got to get it done anyway.
And I think with the fitness, if you said you're trying to do 3 occasions a week, that's more likely to happen than if you're saying, Wednesday at 4 o'clock, Thursday at 8. Coming up with specific time slots that you're supposed to stick to is harder than just having number of occasions like you've got, I think. So it may be doing it.
Yeah, and that's my metric. That's how I measure back. But I do put it in my calendar.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'll zoom this out.
I'd split my week into half-hour increments, and I did attempt to plan out the whole week in that manner. But the problem was, because it's so detailed, when shit hits the fan with real estate and it throws you off track, I just never sat down to sort of rejiggle everything, So that's been my struggle, trying to be more detailed about the plan, where when things change, having to rejiggle,
Yeah, that happened to me a lot early on when I started planning it. I think actually the first post I put on this topic was when I was in the middle of Staples. I was like, I'm going to go get myself a physical planner, and I could not find a physical planner that covered my normal work, like my normal day, right?
From 5 in the morning till midnight
or whatever. I'm like, nothing covers that time frame. So I found something that worked, and then the planner I'll show you that I use is broken into 15-minute increments. And my first couple planning sessions, like, I had this down to 15 minutes. I'm gonna boom, 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 and I missed so many targets because it's just I set myself up for failure. And I definitely beat myself up over it, on the back end of it. But then I realized there were some things like my W-2, my job. I can't hold myself to a very strict schedule, because my job sometimes requires me to drop everything, go to a different property because there's an emergency, there's something going on, or I have a bunch of crews working all over the place and something came up and I just have to kind of shift my day around. So I kind of do a mix of time blocking and actual scheduling, where I know I don't have flexibility. I try to be a little cognizant of that, where I know, hey, I need to commit to this. It has to be done at this time. I put it in there and I make sure it's attached to all of my digital calendars, all my Google Mail and my Google calendars, all that stuff. So I'll share my planner in a second, but just to kind of go back through where I go from here. So I basically circle, I'm at number 1. This is step 1, where I list out my win, and then I go through my metrics. And then I zoomed in too much. I don't know how. There we go. All right. So then I go back through my brain dump, and this literally, I just put everything out here. And that's item 2, is I get everything on paper, and then I prioritize. So I'll star 3 to 5 items that I need to make sure gets addressed on my calendar when I actually do my planning. And then I jump right into the, all right, how did last week really go? I'll be totally honest and vulnerable with you guys. I scheduled the date night with my wife and it didn't happen. So not great. You know what I mean? I reflected back on that. And then, how am I doing towards my 2022 goals? So I kind of reflect back on that, and then that's it, right? So that's my journaling portion, and I keep it in a nice small notebook that I can easily carry around with me in my planning book. And then I jump into the actual calendar. So
And that one goes from, is that from 7 in the morning till what, 8 at night on there? Or?
This is 7 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine stopped at 8.
Yeah, a lot of them do, and that's the crazy part. I didn't think that I'd have a hard time finding that type of calendar, but apparently it's not that easy. So I did find one that worked, and I thought maybe I should take this as a sign to try my best to unplug at 10 o'clock at night, give myself a little bit of unwind time, and then if I stuck to this, I'd be able to get to bed by midnight, no problem. So doesn't always happen that way.
What brand of planner is that? At a Glance, which is the one that I use.
Yes. Yep. So this is an At a Glance.
Okay.
And it is item GC 52007.
Yeah, because mine stops at 8 o'clock, which pisses me off. So I'll definitely get that one.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of, I didn't realize the world of planners was as crazy as it is, but it all depends on what works for you. There's a lot that, give you little gratitude prompts and things like that, which I definitely will look into. But right now, my focus was more on the scheduling aspect. And, there's other ways you can do it. Like I have the Bigger Pockets Intention Journal, which is a great journal, but it doesn't give me the structure I needed to get my whole day planned out because I'm juggling a lot of things, I felt. So I wanted to make sure I gave them all the right attention. And then
so your colors on there or what?
Yeah, so my colors, let's see if I can zoom in on that. So I break it all out, and then I color code it into my W-2, my job, and then family time, my real estate investment stuff, and then stuff for myself, right? Whether that's meditation, exercise, things like that. And it just gives me a good sense of when I can look back on it real quick and see the colors. There we go. That's too much.
Green is real estate investment, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the green is where I try to focus on real estate investment journey and stuff like that. So obviously you can see in the pink, there's nothing in this section of pink, but it's also because, I'm not using this planner to necessarily plan my day-to-day in my job, because that, like I said, that kind of flows. I have calls, random calls with the corporation, and those things just, it's somewhat chaotic, right? There's not as much structure. You'd think there would be, but there's not as much structure on that side. So I just make sure that I time block out. Like if there's a couple things I have to get done for work, I make sure to put it in here because it impacts my travel, right? The direct, like the way my day is going to take me. And then I start breaking out, if I have a little real estate thing in between, like I had to pop over to one of my properties to look at a plumbing thing. Well, that's not really work. That's, related to my real estate. But I made sure I put it on here so I could account for it. And then building in my travel. Then I had, I'm actually on a weekly call with my pod mates in the GoBundance group. So I make sure I schedule for that. And then a couple of the items that are on my to-do list. And then again, I figure, all right, well, I'm going to wrap up work. And if I'm wrapping it up from home, I can jump right on the elliptical before I go upstairs to the family, have dinner with them, check in on the kids and the wife, and then put the kids to bed. And then the rest of the night I focus on my real estate business. So that's kind of how things flow for me for the most part.
And what dictates what gets done in the green in the evenings is your priorities for your real estate investing for that week.
Right. Yeah. And there are times when, like I said, I don't prioritize in every category necessarily. It's whatever's on my mind. Like, I mean, I think last week I had a priority of trying to get some one-on-one time with my wife scheduled. I did. And then I reshuffled that because we had an opportunity. We had some family staying with us and we tried to take advantage of that. We're like, oh, well, if we're going to have somebody staying with us for a while, maybe they can cover the kids and we can just go out. I can take her out to dinner. And unfortunately, I didn't have a whole lot of control over their day. So that fell through. And then I rescheduled for another day and that fell through. So, I mean, you just make the best of it on those occasions. And you have to give yourself a little grace too. I mean, you set the plan, but you can't beat yourself up if you don't hit everything on there. It's how close did you get?
Oh, yeah.
And did you actually set realistic expectations for yourself? So that's kind of the stuff I reflect back on the week. If I beat myself up too much at the end of the week, it's, you know, I have to look at it. Well, maybe I prioritize the wrong things and I need to focus on something else. And, you know, what's the one thing that's going to grow my business to the next level? What's the one thing that's going to take my family connection to the next level? And it's kind of whatever I'm feeling on that Sunday, you know, so it flows, it changes every week. But this at least helps me get the stuff out of my head. And then after I have all this written down, because I like the exercise of physically writing it, then I put it into my Google Calendar. And I actually have several Google accounts in my calendar that also match the color coding here. So my wife and I share a Google account. So like everything that's in family is typically something that's on both of our calendars. There's other stuff in the middle of the day that I don't account for family wise because I'm working, but my wife will put things in there like my kids going to camp and things like that. She puts that in there. So I'm aware of it, but if I can account for it, then great. Like, I mean, I try to make sure, you know, on this day here, Thursday morning, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm pretty good at handling the way that my Thursday is going to go. And on Friday, I was leaving the house at 4 a.m. for work. I had to go fly down to Maryland. So knowing that my day was going to be much longer on Friday for my job, my W-2, I took the morning of Thursday to spend a little bit more time with my kids, and I dropped them both off at their camps for the day.
And having kids is a whole other dimension, isn't it? Trying to fit kids into the picture.
Yeah. Definitely is. So, and then, yeah, I mean, I just kind of go from there. And obviously you see that nice big on day on Saco. I spent the entire day on the Saco River, which was an adventure all in of itself. And that was part of my my quarterly goals was at the beginning of the year. Like I said, I do my planning and kind of some milestones I want to get done towards the quarters or at the end of the year. And spending a little bit more time with my brother and his girlfriend was on there. So I made sure to plan a date where the four of us, my wife, my brother, and his girlfriend, we all went up to the Saco and just kind of lazy tubed it down the river, which always comes with its own fun, exciting stories. Like our tube blew out. We had a 12-inch gap in the side of our tube and probably 10 minutes into the river, which could have really ruined the entire trip. And I mean, to be honest with you, back up maybe a year or 2 years, I would have just kind of taken my toys and gone home at that point. But it was already a big step. Like we didn't get enough time with my brother to go out and spend like one-on-one time just hanging out. So we made the best of it. We kind of lounged there and complained about, oh, that stinks that the tube just blew up. And here I was commenting that my tube was a cool vintage tube because we had the same tube, but his tube was literally just bought last year. And my tube was, I don't know, like 5 years old. And I was like, yeah, I got the vintage. I got the original one. Yeah. And then now in the direct sunlight, the seam ripped wide open. And so I was like, well, so much for vintage. But the good thing, it worked out. I mean, there was a drop off with a tube company right next to where we actually blew up. So my wife ran up there and actually got us an extra tube, which worked out. Then we got to spend the rest of the river dragging our limp dead tube with us all the way down for the next 6 hours. So it was a good time.
So in your quarterly planning, are you assessing your net worth like 4 times a year like that, or what do you do with net worth calculation? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that's kind of more so where my involvement with the GoBundance group comes in. That group has really helped me focus on that stuff. And with my pod mates as well, like we go through what they call a one sheet. It's like the back of a baseball card. You consider it that way. And it's quarterly. You look at your net worth, your horizontal lines of income, your vertical lines of income. So it's definitely good stuff there. And if that's something that you're interested in, Richard, I mean, definitely reach out to me separately. I can give you a little bit more background on the GoBundance thing. And I think they're actually running a promo right now for the Emerge, because I started in Emerge, which is a 12-week intro to the program. And then it goes into Ascend, which is what me and Mel and Matt are part of right now.
Yeah, I'll talk to you separately on that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. But again, that gives you a nice spreadsheet. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and it kind of hits all those things. Like where do you want your net worth to be at the end of the year? Like it tracks everything. It's all the gardens of life. You know what I mean? You got your income, you got your weight, you got your spiritual, your family, all of those things. It gives you the room to put in some measurable goals for the year, for the quarter. And then, with the pod that you're involved in, we kind of help hold each other accountable to make sure those are getting done. And at the quarter, I'll roll my one sheet into my planning session, right? So when I go and do my planning, you might see in the picture, I have my tablet with me as well. Typically, you just see a picture of like it's playing Pandora while I'm doing my planning. It's playing music that I'm listening to, but I have it there so I can see my one sheet on the bigger screen as opposed to my computer. So I can zoom in on it and say, yep, all right, you know what? I haven't really accounted for reading the 12 books I told myself I was going to read this year. So I need to make sure that's part of my goals as well. So that's part of the brain dump, where I can kind of go back and look at that and be like, oh, that was something I was supposed to do. And if you're not looking at it, then you're not going to be able to hold yourself to it. So,
yep.
Yeah. And then that's kind of it. Once I have all of that in my physical planner, like I said, I pump it all into my Google, into my Gmail calendars. And like I said, when I look at, I can't really show you my phone because that's what is streaming this right here. But yeah, on my calendar, it does break all that stuff out. So when I do a quick snapshot of my camera, if I just pull up my calendar, when I just pull up my calendar on my phone, I can see all the pink, all the orange, all the blue, all the green. I color code it the same way to match my notebook so that I can look just quick snapshot. And sometimes you feel that imbalance, you know what I mean? Like one day I'll look at it and there'll be no family time accounted for at all, because right after my work, I go to a real estate meetup or something like that. And if I see that happen, 2 days in a row, then I know I gotta, even if it looked good on paper in one form, I see that and I'm like, I have to readjust. I have to make sure that I put more family time in there. Take the kids out to do a Build-A-Bear or something like that. I can't tell you how many Build-A-Bears I have in this house right now. That's what my kids love to do. They stuff their own stuffed animals, and we just have pounds and hundreds and beanbag sacks of these things now. So
it's pretty funny.
What you do is you put a couple of those away, their oldest ones, in a plastic bag and hide them away. When they want a new one, you just rip that puppy up and go, here you go.
Yeah. Well, we're also trying to teach them. That's the other thing that we try to do on the weekends is we try to have the kids go through their room and clean up their room, which that's a constant battle. Even if we try it weekly, we might get it done once a month, but typically we make that part of like a contribution thing, right? We look at some of the toys that are in good shape that they don't play with, put it in a box, and then we donate that. Same thing with my wife and I. We go through our clothes that are in good shape that we don't, it's been hanging on the rack for too long. We'll probably do that like quarterly. So we try to make, you know, decent contributions of toys and clothing or whatever on a quarterly basis. And my kids are 6 and 3, so they don't fully grasp it, but you know, if we stick to it, we're probably going to do it a little bit more just to try to get that habit ingrained in them, you know, to quarterly gather some stuff and clean things up and donate it. But yeah, so that's kind of it on my process, you know, and there's my, I got myself a nice little case for my highlighters. Helps keep my color coding in check.
And Dan, your color coding was 4 colors, was it? So you had W2, real estate investing, family, and then personal. Was it those 4? Have you got, or was it 5?
Yep. Yeah, I got 4.
Right.
Typically I don't have the purple one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
see
typically
5 there
these
now.
4 right here. And then
Okay.
I have the extra just in case. And I found a purple one. I was like, oh, cool. So I threw that in there, but I don't even use that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely going to use the color thing. That's good.
Yeah. So that's
It's
kind of what I
interesting
do.
because I don't, you know, I schedule the hell out of like work and real estate, right? But I don't really schedule out family time or, you know, or personal time. You know, I usually end up being able to do it, but it's a lot of times it does that kind of puts it to the back burner, which shouldn't be in a lot of cases. That's a good point.
Right. Yeah, and I'm just looking in the comments. I see John Bombachi, who shout out to John. I mean, he's one of the reasons I'm heavily into the real estate game right now. His team's helped me with almost every transaction I've done so far. Well, yes, every transaction, actually. But he threw out that The One Thing is a good book. And I mean, I've read that thing probably 3-4 times. It's on my repeat list in my Audible account. So definitely anybody watching this, whether it's the recording or whatever afterwards, I don't know if I'm going to share this out. I just wanted to record it for posterity. If we come back to this or do this often or more frequently, if it's beneficial, then yeah, we can reflect back. But definitely The One Thing is a great book to help focus on what the important things are in whatever aspect it is you're looking to do, business, family, whatever. What's the one thing you need to do that'll make, you know, the next day, week, month easier. So
Good audio
that's kind of
book,
my,
too.
what's that?
Said it's a good audio book too. It's great for,
Yeah.
It's a fairly quick one for if you're driving anywhere, you can listen to portions of it.
Absolutely. So that's it. I mean, I didn't have like an agenda necessarily. I wanted to share with everyone what I do, kind of talk through the steps. But at this point, I mean, I know a lot of us are doing planning in one way or another, and it looks like we got a few other people that popped on. Well, Alicio popped on, another GoBro there. What questions or insight do you guys have, or what do you do differently in your planning?
I mean, one of the things that I do, like, you know, I'm a portfolio manager in my W2 job, right? So it's managing people who manage projects, right? So so I kind of live off my schedule. So what I end up doing, probably like you, is blocking off blocks of time throughout the week. Like I'm looking at my schedule here, and you know, typically on a Sunday or Monday morning, I'll go out and figure out where I have big spans of time where I don't have meetings, and I'll just start blocking them off, right? And then what I'll do in a lot of cases is I'll have another meeting that has my to-do list, right? You know, where I just like list out everything that I want to accomplish in the week for my real estate, right? And as you know, so I've got something that, you know, from block of time from 10 to 11. So you know, so I'll block that off, and then I'll have the meeting, you know, in, you know, calendar thing where I've got the list of to-dos, and I'll just put that, you know, right on top of the 10 to 11. And then I'll go into that at 10, and I'll go through to see how much I can do. And I'll cross those off and move it to the next block. That, you know, that works. It depends, you know what I mean? If a lot of stuff blows up during the week, it doesn't work as well. But I think that happens to everybody. But that's what I do a lot.
I would say my planner looks the same as Dan's, although mine stops at 8, like I said, even though I go till midnight. And I have done a daily and a weekly and a monthly sheet. So on the weekly one, on the daily one, I've got priorities for the day, 1 through 3. So, talking about the one thing, number 1 will be the one thing for the day. So I've got top 3 priorities, daily, weekly, and monthly, in addition to my planner, the same as Dan's. I'll talk about a general focus for the week, like I'm hot on lead gen at the moment, and stuff to add for next week, which I would transfer to the next week. And then I do a weekly review, the highlights, and what could have been done better. So at least I've gotten to the point of getting those set up. And at the bottom of my weekly, I've got my weekly money I have to bring in for the week, how much I did generate, and the difference between the two. So that's one system I sort of set up for myself, which seems to work pretty good.
Nice. And so do you have that like all printed out week by week and it's in like a binder, or?
No, I keep the monthly ones. I haven't bothered keeping the weekly ones, but especially with the monthly ones, it's good when I'm sort of reviewing the quarter to go back to the prior 4 months to see how I did, what I could have done better on stuff, what I did well with, So no, I'll just print out, 10 of the daily ones, and they go in my file that I'll grab one from each day, and the same with the weekly ones, and those are getting, my week, the 3 today, the weekly one and the monthly one are amongst my written priorities in my planner. So they're sort of loose inside each week in my planner.
Right. So, I mean, obviously I do this on a weekly basis. John says he does it every day. I mean, he's got a very big team of people to try to work around and deal with schedules there. Sounds like you're doing it daily as well. One thing I have heard from some people that don't do this, they don't do any planning at all, is they don't have time to plan. Because I mean, part of the reason I track how long it takes me is when I said, oh, I didn't have time to meditate. I mean, it's literally 10 minutes, 10 minutes where it's not going to impact the world. If I just disappear and unplug for 10 minutes to take a few minutes and get my head straight. And especially if I just dealt with something like bad at work. Like, I mean, I deal with some pretty unpleasant emergencies. So you need to take those times just to collect your own thoughts and get yourself centered a little bit. And again, like a year ago, I would have laughed at you, said meditation, like, come on, look, I don't meditate. I'm not the meditate guy. I'm not great at it, but I still do it because I do get some benefit of it. So again, it's like, if you say you don't have time to do it, I mean, you're doing it daily. How long is that process taking you to go through that sheet?
It's just part of my morning routine. I'll meditate, do some fitness, do this exercise, which is for the day. It's only like, I don't know, 20 minutes just to whip through the week's priorities and make sure that I'm paying attention to what I'm trying to get done that week. And some of that will obviously transpose to that day,
Right.
Yeah, if my morning prep routine is like an hour and a half or so at 5 o'clock, then this sort of writing priorities portion is like 20 minutes or so,
Right. But again, it sounds like you're doing the habit stacking as well. Like, I think there's other things that call it tiny habits, atomic habits, habit stacking. Like there's different concepts of it, but it's to take 20 minutes out in the middle of the day, somebody be like, I don't know, I'll never remember to do that, but you're sliding it right into your normal routine, and it's inconsequential to the rest of your day. You know what I mean? It's just part of the morning. It's just how you get ramped up. So I think that's a big hurdle that people can't wrap their head around until they actually start going through the process. So I appreciate you sharing that. Anybody else? Dickens, I know you're planning, and I think you typically do it on Sunday as well. And I know Mel, you're trying to get onto a routine with it, right?
Yes, I do it on Sunday. I'm using the
Bigger Pockets one.
Yeah, this one, and the intention for Brendan Turner of Bigger Pocket. It's a quarterly goal setting and separate into weeks and days. And I try to, on Sunday, I will get my weekly things on, and it's part of my routine, daily routine. Every day I will review what I need to do on a day, and I add them beside, because I realize that this one is not enough, but I have a Google Calendar. That's what we were talking about then, about the timeline. That's a lot of this one worked for 5:30, for 5 to 10:30. Sometimes we go after 10:30, so that's what I use Google Calendar. I wake up at 4:30, so Google Calendar work. And the good thing with Google Calendar also is there's a reminder on my phone, so I can have a little alarm of each activity or each time blocking, which sometimes the paper journal will not help me, because if I'm not home and it's still on my desk, there's no way that paper journal gonna remind me what need to be done.
So if you're getting up at 4:30, what time are you going to bed?
It's always after 10. It's always around midnight.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I need to be better at it.
I think some people, I mean, I'm, as long as I can get 5 hours sleep, I'm good,
I'm just listening to a book that was mentioned in Gap and the Gain by a gentleman, and he talked to the programmer who was a famous programmer, somebody named Chin Liu at Microsoft, I believe, and he kept gradually reducing his hours of sleep until he found that optimal level to where he could still perform throughout the day and it didn't challenge his schedule. And I think he got it down to 4 hours is what his optimum is.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is.
And some people definitely need more sleep, but I think it is good to sort of assess it,
Yeah, so I've used, I'm gonna spotlight this real quick here. I mean, we're all in this world. I don't know if everybody has seen the Brandon Turner intention journal. I mean, this is what I started with at the beginning of the year.
No.
And it's good. I mean, it's decent. I was finding it less, it was just too wordy for me. There was too much stuff to put in there, and the scheduling didn't quite match. But yeah, you do a weekly battle plan in there. And then it also does have a little bit of the habit tracking. So you can get like that Seinfeld method of a weekly streak and everything. And then you got your week plan. And then you got your brain dump. And after you do the weekly stuff, then you jump into the daily. And you have your action plan, your 3 goals for the day, your time blocking for the day, and then a quick review. So I was finding the reason I didn't stick with that one was because on the daily, I was having a hard time with it. That's more so a me thing than a journal thing. It's just that I wasn't prioritizing that in my day. My morning routine, I wasn't willing to sacrifice any of that to put that book in. So I'm doing it on a weekly basis, but everyone's going to get out of it what they put in, and I find that I'm better on a weekly than a daily. Am I still spotlighted there?
Yep.
So
is anybody else doing anything different or additional to what Dan's been over?
No, I still find he's very encouraging just for me to actually see his planning going on. When I see his post, I'm like, oh, that's right. I need to go sit down and do mine. And the fact that if I actually start my sheet at the beginning of the week and get more than halfway through it, then for me, I'm doing pretty good, because for some reason my head actively works against making a list.
yeah.
And are you guys all doing Sunday planning on Sunday mornings as opposed to end of the day Sunday?
For me, it's end of the day Sunday. 'Cause I have too many things happening in the morning, Sunday morning, That's what I do after 8. I just sit, relax, and then open my notebook, put some music.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it fluctuates. I mean, sometimes I'll do it in the morning, and sometimes I'll do it at night. The part that stinks about it is, I thought I was like a celebrity at the local Dunkin's, but a few times they've actually kicked me out of there because, I'm like, what do you mean? You guys are open till like 7? They said, no, we close the dining room at 6. And I'm like, but I need to plan. And at that point, I'm already out of the house and I don't want to like go back to the house and try to do the planning. So I grab my coffee and I go sit in my truck. Planning in my truck is not fun. I don't
No.
enjoy that. But getting out of your environment, because I think that was a big thing for me. Trying to do it in my own environment, I think is what was holding me back, because just too many distractions. You know what I mean? Like I said, I got 3 monitors going, and then I'd have my work computer open or something like that. And even if I haven't officially started my work day, that doesn't stop the world from trying to reach me. You know what I mean? I'll get a work email, I'll see something pop up, and technically I know it can wait a little while before I can get to it, but it'll still distract me and I'll get off the track. So I find getting myself out of my normal environment and going to do it works. And I do typically try to plan it, whether it's, morning, afternoon, or evening. I typically try to do it in the middle of the day, if I can swing it. And sometimes that doesn't work because Saturdays and Sundays are more flexible for me and my family. That's kind of where I try to get more of my family time banked up, let's say, because it's easier. The kids are around, and it's just a lot easier to kind of tackle big chunks of time with the family. So it depends. If my wife has something going on, I'll do it in the morning. Like I'll probably end up doing my planning. See, I want to say I'll do it after this, but I have to double check where my wife's at, because she should be coming home shortly after, and I don't want to like disappear as soon as she gets back. So, but I will definitely get my planning done today, but I don't stick to a hard and fast rule on the time. But I'll share my screen real quick here. All right. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but this is the app that I was telling you about. I have on my phone. It's, you can get it on Google Play. I think they have it for Apple as well. This is not my version, but same thing. You can actually color code this. You can color code this. You can create it so that it's a numeric value that you punch in at the end of the day, or a yes or a no. So, like I said, you kind of saw my metrics that I measure. Did I get to bed by midnight? Was I tracking my calories? Did I track my calories every day? And that's the other thing, is I also use an app to track my calories. When I got married, I think like 6 or 7 months leading up to my wedding, my wife and I started tracking calories, and I was the heaviest I'd ever been when I started tracking. And I lost, I think it was a little over 60 pounds before the wedding. So I knew I could do it. And then right after the wedding, we had family time. I stopped tracking. And then we went on a cruise, and I thought I knew the system. I was like, I've been doing this for like 7 months now. I know what everything's worth calorie wise. I know I can go afford to have that cheesesteak because I'm going to work out tonight and I'm going to burn it off. And yeah, that was a downhill slope. I stopped tracking, completely lost track of what things were worth on calories. And I got back up to an unhealthy weight for me. And the beginning of the year, I started tracking again, and just using my calorie tracker, which is MyFitnessPal. I dropped again. I'm down, I think, 30 pounds now. So I still have a goal, and that's on my quarterly sheet, is that by my next birthday, I will hit a target goal of weight. And then when I hit that, there's only that much left of the rest of the year. But I'll reassess as to, all right, well, what do I want to be by the end of the year at that point? But I set my goal because a lot of people set their annual goal by December, I'll be here. Well, I made this more of a stronger goal for the end of Q3, right? So that I have room at the end of the year to exceed my goal, which I intend to do. But I knew that by this point, I needed to be at a certain weight to feel where I needed to be. So I track, every night my phone will ding at 10:05 p.m. It'll ask me, did I enter my calories for the day? And then I have to check my calorie app and find out, did I consume by the end of the day, did I net 1,500 calories or less? Which is how I'm on a weight loss track, is trying to consume 1,500 or less for the day. And then it asks me, the other things is, did I check my leads today? How many leads came in today? How many did I put on a short list? Did I analyze any leads today? So those are things that I don't necessarily put on my calendar anymore, because that's kind of part of my time blocking, right? So after my normal work, I'll sit down, I'll probably pull open my computer real quick. I'll check my lead sources, whether it's direct mail, calling, or just my filters on like Redfin or something like that. I'll go through and I'll scan through that and see, did any wholesalers hit me with a possible lead? Did Redfin show up anything? And then I'll start to track all those. But again, you get to, with this particular app, you can color code it. You can match your schedule if that helps you. And you can set reminders, and then it actually shows you, so it shows you a way, like you can track these things, whatever graph or presentation works best for you. It gives you a nice little snapshot. So I like the app, and it's real quick. I mean, I have it set up for a widget. You see this little guy right down here? I have on one of my home screens on my phone, I literally have all my goals in this little checkbox. So I have all these, and it's literally just a tap. Tap, tap, tap. Did I wake up or did I get to sleep by midnight? Yes. Did I track my calories? Yes. It's just click, click, click. Because I figured if I put too many barriers in front of myself, put too many obstacles to get the documentation, to get it tracked, then it wouldn't get done. So I tried to make it as simple as I could there. So I like that app. And then this is a snapshot of the one sheet that we use. Tracks
for
all that
net worth
stuff.
or whatever.
Yep. So net worth, your quarterly goals, annual goals, all that stuff. So it's all good stuff,
And with the Loop Habit tracker, are you mostly using that on your phone or equal with your laptop? Mostly phone. Yeah.
Again, because it's on that. I mean, I keep calling it the Seinfeld method because that's kind of how it was drilled into my head with the Bigger Pockets world. But the intention journal from Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets is big on that method as well. But I mean, you saw the size of that book. I mean, it's not a small book to carry around with you. So I felt lugging the intention journal around me all day was not great for what I need. And then this is the book. I mean, that's what I journal in. This is my planning. And this was a gift from my buddies at REI Unleashed. This is one of Nick's books. I went to one of the meetups, and it was one of the giveaways at the meetups, and I was like, okay, cool. And it's nice and small, and I was like, all right, I'm going to use that then. And it actually fits in my pocket, so I don't have an excuse now. You know what I mean? I don't have a 5-pound book I'm trying to lug around to document all this stuff. And then again, any information I could put on my phone just makes things that much easier because it's at your hand. It's right there, ready to go. So, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. It is 11 o'clock. I didn't think I'd have enough to talk about for a full hour, but I'm definitely glad you guys all jumped on. I hope you got some value from this. I mean, do you guys have any closing remarks or any requests? Do we want to do this again? Do we want to, follow up and bring anything else to the table? Or do you want me to share this recording in that little calendar invite? Give me some feedback. What do you guys want? How can I help you?
I think I struggle. I've got multiple entities because I'm a realtor with Keller Williams and investor chasing down various different deals. I don't have any investment properties today, apart from a piece of land next door to my house, but I'm also a private funding broker and I've got several deals. So, it's a case of spinning a lot of plates. But if I was just a realtor or just a real estate investor, you still got multiple deals within each category that you're trying to stay on top of, don't you? So yeah, it's just a case of being organized, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share with you something I shared with another good friend of mine. He's actually one of John Bombachi's agents, and great kid. He has a lot of plates as well. I mean, the guy runs a podcast. He works full time for an HVAC company. He's an investor. and he is now involved in the investing committee, investing group. He does some hard money lending. So
Yeah.
he does all this stuff. And on top of that, he now owns his own family. So now he's a landlord. So he's a house hacker living. So he and I talked about this, and he's just like, well, how do I do all that? And I'm like, well, you don't have to fit all of that into a day. You know what I mean? Like, you have your W-2, you have your job, you know what I mean? And then after your typical job hours, because if that's where your priority is, that's golden handcuffs, whatever you want to call it. After that, like, if you want to put in so many hours a week on your investing work or your podcast work, whatever, don't focus on, well, I need to try to do an hour on everything, every one thing every night, because you're going to drive yourself crazy. But kind of look at it of, hey, Mondays after work, I'm going to focus on my podcast. On Tuesdays after work, I'm going to focus on my real estate agency. On Wednesdays, I'm going to focus on my own investment stuff and whatever. I said, if you put it all in front of you and you try to get it done in a day, you will drive yourself crazy. And that's kind of where I started to get to that point where I was trying to do everything, thinking I only have one day. You don't. That's why I started looking at things more so in the week and looking at, did I put enough family time in for the week? Did I put enough personal time in my exercise or whatever calorie tracking for the week? Because if you look at it by the day, you're cutting yourself off. You don't give yourself enough grace to finish out the week strong, because you think, oh, I didn't do that today, so I'm a failure. And it doesn't work that way. So sounds like with the amount of plates that you're spinning as well, you know, I assume that you try to get as much done in the day as you can. But if you can open that mind up a little bit into, you know, did I get enough done for the week? It might ease some of that pressure and start helping you, you know, hit some of the goals that you want to hit. That's my advice.
And I think a large part of scaling is leveraging through others, which I've not done much of. And that's a huge priority for me this year, is getting admin to take some of that shit off my shoulders.
Yeah.
Because for me to sit down for 4 hours to do input a listing, that's not the best use of my time. And it's something that's easily delegatable, you know.
Right. Yeah. How about you guys? Mel, Dickens, anything to?
I think it's something that we should do again. A follow up. I don't know if we're gonna do in 2 weeks or a month. It's gonna, you know, everybody's schedule, but yeah, we can learn on each other's experience. And personally, when I plan, that happens some Sunday, some weekend I cannot plan, but when I do what I realize in a weekly that I already plan and a weekly that I didn't have the chance to plan, I'm more productive when I plan. So so thank you, Dan. Thank you for everything. You know, it's
Thanks.
very
Yeah, Dan, thank you.
inspiring. So let's do it again.
Okay. Well, then I'll add a challenge to it. I mean, if we're all actively planning and some of us working on getting more planning done, you know, keep an eye on my post. I'll post again when I do my planning, you know, quick snapshot, doesn't have to be anything crazy. But, you know, just tag your own photo, throw your own thing in there. You know what I mean? So snap your own photo. Thanks, John. I appreciate you joining. John has to jump off. But yeah, you know, snap a photo of your own planning, whether it's just your notebook, your journal, whatever, and just throw it in the post. And I'm definitely open for doing it again. Talking through it, especially if any of us find struggles that were hidden, and for those that didn't get to join on this, because I agree with you, Dickens. I mean, you know it, because we're on weekly coaching calls, but there are weeks when I don't plan, and man, do I feel it. I'm just like chaos. And it's interesting because those that don't plan don't understand it. But once you actually start to plan, you know, you start to realize that, yeah, you have to be able to, you know, schedule things around this to move all of those, you know, move all those dominoes forward a little bit. You know what I mean? If you focus too much on one thing or you live life by default, I mean, I know what my default is, and my default is snacking until midnight, watching TV, you know, and just kind of, you know, turning into nothing. But this is how I can then track, and on, like when Mel was saying, gap in the gain, I can then go back and look at all this stuff. You know what I mean? I can go back and look at my Facebook on all the posts I've done. I can look through my journal and realize, man, like since I started tracking, I've come a long way, you know, and that's that's what I want to focus on, is being able to see the path that I've already traveled to give myself that power and that momentum to keep going forward. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I again, I could probably ramble a bit just on the other general stuff, but I appreciate you guys all jumping on this. I will go ahead and I will probably put another meeting out there. I'll try to see what my next week looks like. I might be able to do it again on Sunday. I just got to double check the family schedule and go from there. Oh, and the other thing is, I don't know if anybody likes to share their schedule with their family, but I have a thing called the DAC board, DAKBOARD. It's a little Raspberry Pi computer. I attached it to a computer monitor and I mounted the monitor in my family hallway. So when we go to the garage, there's a TV. I think I may have posted a picture of it. If not, I'll throw one in here. But my calendars automatically sync to that screen. So my wife can see, hey, Dan has a meeting tonight, a real estate investment meeting in Salem tonight, or he's going to Lowell for a meetup tonight, or I have a conference call or something like that. So I put it out there so that she can see where I'm at. And if we have to schedule something, if she schedules something and I need to be aware of, she throws it up in the calendar and then it's displayed. So it's a nice little feature. I like it. It was a Mother's Day gift for her that I get more use out of. So I enjoy it. But all right, guys, I will give you back the rest of your Sunday. Hope to see some posts on your planning today, and I will definitely schedule another one of these, and we'll do it again.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
guys. All right. Have a
See you
good
later.
one.